Yes. So Heidi will actually start. So
welcome to this session about cooperative learning, the power of positive interdependence in Storyline.
So we are going to present research from a storyline named the Norwegian River Delta, involving 60 second-year student teachers studying to become teachers in primary and lower secondary school. The storyline took place over 1.5 weeks in the spring term and is part of the larger interdisciplinary research project, the Storyline Approach in Teacher Education at Østfold University College.
This study focuses on cooperative learning used in a storyline and investigates how student teachers perceive cooperative learning in this context. It aims to provide a setting where the students could experience and learn about cooperative learning and increase their knowledge and skills needed to plan for high-quality group work as future professionals. The study is designed to contribute to high-quality peer cooperation.
Yeah, and the research question guiding the analysis was, how do second-year primary and lower secondary student teachers perceive cooperative learning as it was implemented with regard to ensuring high-quality peer relationship in storyline? We were thus interested in what distinguished cooperative learning from other less structured form of group work.
Here is a model of structuring social interdependence. It is essential to defining goals and ensure that students care about each other during the group work, and they can help to create interdependency within the group. The teacher monitors the students' behavior and work and can provide assistance. Organizing the room and materials is also important and has an impact on the signals that are sent to the students concerning what is expected. They must sit sufficiently close to each other, but far enough from the other groups to avoid a disturbance. They must sit face to face and have eye contact. All materials needed must be at hand at all times. The group should consist of 2 to 6 members, but novice students should not be in too large groups. The lower the level of members, the lower the level of competence in cooperative learning is needed. When using complementary roles, each member is assigned with a role, e.g. summarizer, checker, observer, and encourager, to make the group work effectively. Providing closure is essential. The students must summarize what they have learned, and they must evaluate how well the group functioned according to the different roles.
Yeah. And when we implemented this storyline, we booked the largest room on campus to actually give space between the tables and room to work. And in addition, partial walls were erected between the tables to reduce noise and create a room within the room, actually.
During the storyline, the students had to draw up a group contract containing 3 to 4 rules formulated in a positive way, e.g., we will have a positive attitude towards other people's ideas, and then sign it. Then we had a subject loop on cooperative learning, describing what it is, and as part of this, the students were assigned complementary roles as secretary, checker, timer, and 2 encouragers. To avoid the possibility of unintended bias, the criteria for selection varied each day. The materials needed were placed either on the group tables or on a long table in the middle of the room for easy access.
Yeah. It was a twofold closure of this storyline. First, the students had to evaluate the social objectives by giving each other 2 2 pieces of written feedback. Each student received an envelope with their feedback inside. And they were so proud of this feedback that they was given. Then the academic objectives were evaluated using an academic test on sustainable development, and a reward was given to the group which developed the best product. The whole project was ended with an on-campus exhibition of all the deltas which they had developed, and the puppets, and all the concepts for the 2 weeks where the storyline had been carried out.
This study is based on a qualitative research design for data collection and analysis, and both focus group interviews and participant observation were conducted. Triangulating data from more than one source can help to collect richer and stronger array of evidence, according to Yin. So we had 7 semi-structured focus group interviews, face-to-face directly after the storyline was finished. 22 of the 60 students participating in the storyline were randomly chosen using purposeful sampling, and 20 of them agreed to participate while 2 opted out. So 2 more were selected from the remaining 38. So we ended with 22 students. The interview guide covered 4 topics and a total of 37 questions, where the questions related to cooperative learning and the students' reflections on using TSA in schools were most interesting to our study. The interviews lasted for about an hour, were recorded and transcribed by an experienced transcriber. 3 of the 12 groups were also observed during the TSA, with a total of 14 students, to get insight into their behaviors, such as gestures, facial expressions, how things were said, etc. Observers had a slightly withdrawn role during the observations and made passive observations. The main focus was to identify how the students made use of the complementary roles. Observations were recorded using scratch notes, written down as accurately and quickly as possible.
Yeah. So now we are going to present the result of this study. The analysis of the empirical data shows that the student taking part in this storyline actually had a positive attitude regarding the way in which cooperative learning was used, but it was also revealed some obstacles that hindered cooperative learning. So after having coded and analyzed the interviews and the observation notes, 3 patterns were identified. The first pattern is relating to depth in academic learning.
The students had to cooperate in multidisciplinary groups and experienced that they could take advantage of each other's expertise. They also appeared to connect this diversity with the completion of the task. They had to argue for their own point of view during the process, and the tasks were formulated in a way that they had to cooperate in order to identify good solutions. Many of them experienced good discussions and depth in their learning, gained new perspectives, and challenged each other. According to Johnson & Johnson, this characterizes a learning promoting and cooperative student-student relationship and mutual investment, which describes positive and high-quality interaction and therefore positive interdependence.
Shall we read the quotes?
Yeah, we can read the quotes. So, one student said, "The group composition did not mean that the mathematics and the science were separate, but that you put things into perspective." And another student said, "The premises and the framework are in any case there for a varied debate or discussion, and provided people are engaged, which we were, then there will be lots of different input, so it was good. But as we said, there were some obstacles as well, meaning that the cooperative learning did not work as well for everyone. This included short deadlines, too many tasks, and general time pressure. Some of the tasks had to be performed at the same time, leading to groups having to split themselves up for some time. And together this contributed to stress amongst the students.
Then the second pattern identified during the analysis is relating to membership and belonging, and the category was named emotional binding. So in the storyline project, the student teachers in each group came from different subject fields, and therefore they did not know each other very well. During this storyline, they found that the sense of unity across the subject fields increased, and many consider collaboration and socialization to be a breath of fresh air. And the biggest benefit, and actually being the biggest benefit of the storyline. The student used words as enjoyable, fun, the best thing about storyline, they said. The students got new insight into what makes group function well, like they don't need to be with their best friends. And everything from the face-to-face interaction to the materials used was carefully planned to facilitate high-quality group work. The students especially appreciated the individual feedback they received from the group mates when the groups were disbanded in the end of the storyline. Together with a joint celebration, this gave the student a feeling of membership, belonging, and shared success. What Johnson & Johnson describe as being emotionally bound together with the other group members. So I just read some of the quotes we have included in the slides. So one of the students said, working with people I do not normally know was fun and interesting. When you meet new people, the thoughts and socialization are new to some extent. And another says, I think I always want to be with people I already know, because then I know we will work well together. But I learned that you do not need to know people, and that you can be different and still work well together. So, yeah. But as we said, there were some obstacles. A few students considered the group identity to actually be weak because they hadn't been enough time to establish the group beforehand. Some also believed that if they had been more closely bound to each other, it would have made a positive contribution to the academic work. So investing enough time to build relationship in the opening of a storyline may be important to make the group work well. So now Heidi is presenting the third and final pattern from the analysis relating to empowerment and commitment.
Yeah, the way this storyline was planned and executed made the students experience a new type of distribution of responsibility in the group work. The complementary roles assisted them to delegate the responsibility, which made the work more efficient. Also found that they could let go a little because they knew that all the tasks would be done properly by someone in the group. Some students seemed to grow particularly into their roles, knowing they would not normally take certain roles, but discovering that once they had to do a certain role, they actually succeeded in it. As one student said, it's great to experience that and not just be the comedian, to grow into it a bit. Most of the students also agreed that it was good that the roles were allocated randomly, so they were challenged to try new roles that they would normally avoid. They were challenged to tackle new areas of responsibility, and that gave them a positive feeling of succeeding in roles which they initially didn't believe they could do.
Mm.
And some of the students said, there's no discussion in the group about who collects materials. The secretary does it. End of discussion. It saves time. And another student said, it's probably a good way of sharing out the role of leader between everyone, so that there isn't one person looking after everything and doing everything, and so that everyone has to contribute in the same way to make sure everything gets done.
Mm.
And another said, what I found most fun was that I was given the role of secretary, even though I'm the flirtiest one around. He laughs. Then when I spoke to the group, everyone looked at me as if they were thinking that I wasn't the type of person. Then I thought, I can be the secretary. It became much more ordered, much more achievable. Things fell into place. It could have been a disaster if we had not had the roles. And then he laughs again. But
now you have 5 more minutes.
Yeah,
Just
even
in
here, there were some obstacles. Especially there was some awkwardness concerning the complementary roles, and it was challenging to take some of them seriously, particularly the role of encourager, because it felt strange, false, or artificial. So some cut it out. Some didn't see the point of using the roles at all, because the collaboration was working well without them, or because they felt that the roles didn't cover their needs. Maybe more or other complementary roles are needed. The students were given a mandatory lecture on cooperative learning, but most of the students had no earlier experience, and that may explain why some students struggled to use the roles. Lee et al. Also found that when some group members did not make an effort, this free riding had a negative impact on the learning behaviors of all group members.
Yeah. So based on this study, it is possible to conclude that the student considered cooperative learning to contribute to depth in the academic learning. They had to collaborate in their multidisciplinary groups, listen to each other, share their own thoughts, argue for their point of view, and importantly, encourage and support the weaker or redundant group member, defined by Johnson & Johnson as mutual investment, which characterize positive interdependency. In order to succeed, you need all members to concede. You sink or you swim together. The student described a feeling of emotional binding. They got to work with students they did not know beforehand and see their classmates in different ways. It's like a breath of fresh air. And finally, the students experienced a feeling of shared responsibility using the complementary roles, which made the work more efficient. They reported a feeling of increased self-efficacy.
So to conclude it all, we can say that interestingly, most students found the arbitrary distribution of the roles to be very positive, as it gave them the opportunity to develop new skills, freed from previous group work, and joy when growing into their roles. The most important implication as regards practice deducted from this study is that sufficient time must be set aside to carry out good collaboration processes. The students would benefit greatly from being introduced to cooperative learning prior to a storyline, so they are familiar with the method and the complementary roles. And finally, taking the obstacles mentioned into account, the conclusion of the study is, however, that TSA provides a good framework and structure for teaching student teachers to experience high quality group work. But more research is needed, especially related to time issues, weak group identity, and complementary roles.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.